Okay, so after reading this article, um, we're going to talk a little bit about how a couple of methods or programs that were out there to try to help control or prevent crime. We have TRP, which is Truancy Reduction Program. It focuses on crime control approach. And we have SROP, School Resource Officer Program, which represents crime prevention approach. Um, the the study was done in Bowdoin County, southern Florida, but what we were trying to find out is see which one is more effective or not and efficient. We never really were able to have a long period of time doing data to figure out whether it was effective or not. So we were pretty much just kind of giving these guys money, funding them, even if not even knowing whether it was working or not. We just kind of were just feeding them money. Or like for an example, when let's say you have an area where you open up a program and the program's doing great. And what happens after is once it's doing great, they take the money out and they stop funding it because they're like, oh well, after 3-4 years, it seems like everything's okay, a-okay. Our gun rate control is down, so we're good to go ahead and put this money somewhere else to help with another area or another subject, whatever it may be. And what you're doing is actually making it worse, because by doing that, you're allowing the gun to come back because there's no more funding to help prevent it from going on. So here we want to see, whether the money is being used or not in a proper way. Also, if it's effective or not. So because of the concept of efficiency asks the relationship between program outcome and the program input, which is the budget. Overall, they pretty much summed it up saying that SROP produced far more efficient results than TRP. So like we said, they were able to do in Florida a 12-year study now with sufficient data evaluating the comparison of the two programs to see which one was working. TPA at the time, when it first started, at the time when civil rights and anti-war protests reached at their peak, it got a real bad name, because of the scandals, not only in the police department but just overall. And then the aggressive techniques that were being used, which a lot of people, you got the media, so the media will always, not saying that they lie, but they over exaggerate on everything. So when you got people listening to the media saying like, oh, this is going on, people tend to, ask questions and raise their eyebrow. So they started to test new methods. TRP aims to control crime by reducing daytime juvenile offense committed by students who are supposed to be at school, but they end up, what the idea here is that if they're not at school, they're basically the high rates of truancy, which burglary, theft, vandalism during school hours. So the thought here, and maybe even getting into gangs and doing drugs and drinking beer. So they're thinking, these are the truants that are most likely of dropout kids that are going to lead to further problems, whether, like I said, burglary or whatever it was. Whereas crime control, that's crime control. SRP can be categorized in crime prevention, like I said before, which actually this one I like more only because I felt that it focused more on preventing the problem before it actually happened. A lot of us tend to do that in society. I used to work for a non-profit organization where unless poop hit the fan, then we're quick to jump to the gun and be like, well, whose mistake was it, or why wasn't this put there? And it's like, instead of that, why not think ahead and think of like, well, what can happen, or what can we do to prevent from this happening, instead of waiting for it to happen and then being like, now we need to do something, when sometimes it's something's already been done, and now we got, of course, that's the starting point of a lot of programs where something is going on, so now we say, well, now we got to do something about it. But the prevention approach is, in my opinion, is probably the best way to go. So for example, here the crime prevention was community policing, which on foot patrol experiments, citizen participation, which helps out a lot because you get the community pretty much involved. So kind of like it's the community policing itself, and also connecting ties with everyone so everyone knows each other. Outreach techniques encourage residents to participate in police work. That's a lot of people, a lot of people don't have a lot to do sometimes at home, so this is kind of good for them, not only to be familiar with their own community, but to help out as well. And it doesn't cost anything if you think about it. I mean, if you have people kind of doing their own neighborhood watch type of deal. It also contributed to decrease in street crime, especially violence and drug trafficking. More active people walking around, more active people with their eyes open. People are more likely not to be doing illegal things around there because there's a lot of people going around, or there's a higher chance that things will happen. Just like, for example, when burglars don't tend to burglarize homes that people are in because of the fear of getting shot. The fear of them getting caught and stuff like that is much higher. So crime prevention seemed to work more. A typical program also in school police, they would go into school and talk to teachers, students, talking about drugs, alcohol, the influences and what it does, how not to be influenced by gangs and doing bad things. So to me, in my opinion, that's the way to do it. I mean, start them off young, talk to them. It's prevention prevents, instead of control, where you're trying to control things and people don't react well to control compared to prevent. In the end, I guess really in the end, after doing all the studies, it showed that, of course, SROP was much more efficient. But even though it was more efficient, it came down to where if it wasn't getting funded, then it wasn't gonna work. Even though it was efficient and more effective, it still relies on the funding, like I was saying before. Like I said before, I had worked for a nonprofit organization, and what we were working on before is where we would have two different type of children. We would have children from ICE, and then we would have children from the state, from CPS, and there was homes there. Now, the funding that was coming in was giving you more money for the ICE children compared to the state children. So what the program did was it evolved to where the money is coming from. So the money was coming from the ICE, so they would go ahead and start putting more money into that. And whether it worked or not, it didn't really matter, because the point is we want to put the money where we want to put the effort where the money is going to be coming in. Whether, like we said, whether effective or not, it really didn't matter in the end. It's where the money is, as sad as it is to say. So the BSO, which was the police department in Florida, so the compliance statistics for both TRP and SRP served as an approach to cost study to collect data for multiple time points rather than just one-time snapshot. They maintained statistical records from 1995 to 2007, which was a 12-year, and evaluated the two programs. TRP's program costed more than double than the absolute value from 1995 to 2007 in growth rate, and doubled compared to SROP program cost. So you're thinking here, how is it that we're funding TRP but and double than SROP, yet SROP is more effective and efficient? So that's exactly what I was talking about before. It doesn't really matter in the end. It really didn't matter what was effective or not. It's kind of sad. So basically, TRBP budget as the reason behind the program's inefficiency. So that's why they would say it was more inefficient than what SROP, not only because of the money, where it all comes down to, but also because it didn't work as well as SRP program. So SRP could be portrayed as inefficient due to its increase of absolute numbers of rates in crime and cost and the large programs of cost. But after 12 years of the program, SRP efficiency ratios showed gradual improvement and sound efficiently. So TRP, as a less efficient program, was an integrated result, because TRP is more traditional top-down crime control program with a narrow deficiency mission. And I also want to talk real quick about how they pretty much, how the efficiency was being evaluated from the performance. You would get, for a TRP, it was the program output, which is the outcome, over the input, which is the budget, which would equal the cost of the daytime crime over the program cost, which is in the school year. As an SROP, the efficiency ratio, what we would look at is the program outcome over the program input, which would give us the cost of juvenile crime over the program cost of the school year. So that's how they pretty much, I guess, the statistic way, how they figured out which one was more efficient and effective in the end as well. But like I said, in the end, you know, these programs can't run unless they're being funded. And TRP was being defunded. Its position were eliminated and distribute the existing vacancy in BSO. All the truancy enforced responsibilities returned to their original placement under patrol operations. Little to no community reaction. So I guess, like I said, in the end, it didn't matter. If the money's not there, it's not going to be efficient. And we saw that. We saw which one was more efficient. One of them was costing us twice as more, and it wasn't as effective as the other one. And yet it took us this long to be able to figure that out, or see like, well, you know, we're giving all this money to this program, and it's the fact, obviously it's not working, but we're still going to continue to give it money. So I guess it, you know, in my opinion, obviously the clear-cut answer was that the SROP had more efficient results, and that's where we should be putting more of our money into, to the community, to everyone, having everyone help out. And there's no reason why we should still keep up the TRP. There really isn't. If it's not working, of course, maybe just have a little bit of it, but why spend double the money on TRP when you have SRP working twice as well for twice as less? And that's pretty much what it came down to in the end, from what I got of this article. So hopefully, yeah.